Welcome to the Daybreak with Jeff Slakey podcast. I'm so happy you found us. Please subscribe, rate, review, and share this with your circle of influence. It's a collection of the interviews, news, and conversation during Daybreak with Jeff Slakey on I-Fiber One News Radio, KMAS, weekdays from 6 to 9. Good Wednesday morning to you. Hope you're having a great start to the day. Midweek here. And Spencer, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How about yourself? Happy Wednesday.
Good to see you. Thanks for doing a lot of the main bulk of the show yesterday to kind of just, clean up the skill set a little bit, make sure there's time available for folks, and good conversation, too, with the Sheriff Salisbury and Chief Deputy Sperling. Some interesting information there, and, man, it's just always harrowing when the High Steel Bridge is involved in a rescue or a recovery.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Very treacherous location for sure.
Today on the show is just COVID updates. We got a Pac-12 news update, as well as some great guests from both the North Mason Chamber and from the Mason County Chamber. Pam Volz and Heidi McCutcheon, both on the air today. But first, we'll start with a COVID update.
Yeah, since our report yesterday, Mason County Public Health was notified of 6 additional Mason County residents that tested positive for COVID-19, bringing the total to 255 positive cases in Mason County. Mason County Public Health continuing contact interviews. 1 hospitalized in Mason County, 2 hospitalized outside of the county. Total tests performed still at 5,157. When a positive case completes their isolation period and is released by local public health, they can return to work and normal activities. If you're showing symptoms for COVID-19, early testing is encouraged. At the earliest signs of symptoms, please reach out to the Respiratory Illness Triage Line, 360-427-3615, and they can assist you in scheduling an appointment at Mason Health's drive-through COVID-19 testing.
Actually seems to have a fair amount of COVID news today outside of just our number update. Drive-in services or remote sessions are still the recommended options. Counties in Phase 1 now can hold outdoor services for up to 100 people. This is for religious services, drive-in services, with a required 6 feet of distancing and facial coverings worn by those who attend. In Phase 2, outdoor services can be attended by up to 200 people with the same masking and distancing requirements as Phase 1 of the reopening plan. Indoor services can be held for up to 25% of the room's capacity or 200 people, whichever is less. Indoor services can expand to 50% capacity or 400 people with distancing and masks in place for Phase 3. Outdoor services can accommodate up to 400 people as well, with social distancing enforced. That is tough, for religious services because, they pack those pews in when you go to church. You're sitting 10, 12 deep on those things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I've noticed a lot of local churches just driving through Belfair. Sometimes I see a lot of them offering those drive-in services. Haven't actually seen one of those. Have you? Like in play? I've never seen how that looks.
We drove by on our main road coming into the house. We have 2 or 3 churches, and we drove by the other day, and there was a group of, probably 20 that are members of a small church, and they were all outside in a big half circle, very distanced, and the preacher was there at the front of the dais, and he had his PA system, and it was a beautiful day, so it worked out real nice to be outside. It'd be like in school when the teacher says, well, we're going to have class outside today.
Yeah,
everybody gets excited.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Everybody looks forward to those. New COVID-19 rules for outdoor fitness classes say that if all of the individuals in the class are from different households, the class size is limited to 8. Classes can increase to 12 if the additional 4 are household members of the original 8. 6 feet of distancing must be provided between attendees. The new guidance takes effect immediately. It was an update to rules issued last week that require 300 square feet of distance, or 17 by 17 feet, between patrons at indoor fitness centers in counties in Phase 2 or 3 of the state's COVID-19 economic reopening plan. For facilities larger than 12,000 square feet, there's a cap of 25% occupancy, and those rules took effect Monday.
The Big Ten and Pac-12 conferences won't play football this fall because of COVID. And although we haven't heard officially from WSU, home of the Cougars and Cougar football here on iFiber One News Radio, the decision takes two of college football's 5 power conferences out of a crumbling season amid the pandemic. Big Ten postponing all fall sports and hopes to make them up in the second semester. Pac-12 pausing all sports until the first of the year, including basketball. The ACC, Big 12, and SEC are still moving forward with plans to conduct a football season. A total of 935 D1 football games have been canceled or postponed because of the pandemic. According to the AP and research done by them, 465 football subdivision games are off. That number is 544 for the football championship subdivision. This is just a lot of gameplay, a lot of time and hard work for the kids that's going to be missed out on, and a lot of money, regardless of what you think of collegiate football. The collegiate football programs in some of these big schools, they bring in a ton of money and help for scholarships for the academic side of the learning in a lot of cases. So there's going to be a heck of a lot of money that's going to be lost because of this football season.
Yeah, we were talking about this at my day job, and people were just shocked. A lot of college football fans there, and they couldn't believe. I mean, they kind of saw it coming, but it's pretty shocking. I mean, I don't think this has ever happened before.
Yeah.
Affected in this big of a scale. Nick Solich singled 3 times and drove in 3 runs, leading the Texas Rangers to a 4-2 victory over the Mariners last night. The finale of the 3-game series, 6:05 this evening, and you can hear the game right here on iFiber One News Radio.
We've been listening to the Mariners a lot lately, and it's been a kind of a nice escape. It's something familiar that is pre-pandemic familiar. And so although we don't know all the players on the team, it's not like some of the, there's a lot of new faces, but we've been listening a lot, and it's really kind of strange. And then we'll turn it on the TV a little bit too, the pumped-in crowd noise.
Yeah, that always throws me off. It's just so weird.
And then I watched some basketball yesterday, and not a huge fan in general, so it's a little more difficult for me to watch a game, but I like to see what they're doing during this pandemic, and lots of masks, real quiet, not a lot of people off the court are there. But there is something about the familiarity to sport that has, at least in the last week or so, been a nice escape.
Yeah,
from the day-to-day.
Yeah, it's a good level of comfort.
Because you're used to it.
Yeah, even with all the weirdness, it's still better than not having it, I guess, right?
Coming up on the show today, we have Pam Volz, Heidi McCutcheon from both of the chambers on with some updates on what they've been up to, and more news and conversation as well. It's all right here on a Wednesday morning, and Daybreak continues. Good morning to you.
From the iFiber One News Radio studios, you're listening to Daybreak.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm happy to have in studio today from both of the chambers in Mason County, the Shelton-Mason County Chamber and the North Mason Chamber, Heidi McCutcheon and Pam Volz. Hi, ladies. Good to see you in here. It's been a while since we've talked to you both, and so I thought make some time to check in a little bit and see what's going on. Heidi, let's start with you.
Yeah, so, it's been an interesting year for all of us, and our businesses are not differing from that. It's actually been the disparity between some people have had the best year that they've ever had, and then others, have had a really difficult time. And as things seem to change at a moment's notice, it sometimes, some of those businesses could be days away from closing permanently. So as we move forward, and I think kind of what we've seen is that for those that were considered essential businesses from the beginning have been doing fairly okay. And some of those that were not considered that have been suffering a little bit more.
One of the things I noticed that when the lists were being made of essential businesses, some smaller businesses were left out as other big box stores were able to remain open even though they sold similar items. That had to have been just really tough for the small businesses.
It really is, Jeff. I mean, when you're talking about big box stores, and for Belfair, they have access to get to those. But we also have a really compassionate community, and we have our, support shop local, and we've really tried to drive that communication out so that folks will use their shop local cards and go out and visit the local businesses. And so it's helped a bit.
Well, since March, we've seen a real quick on-ramp to digital sales. Talk to me a little bit about the outreach to businesses that you guys did, and then what you think of the online adoption to get towards more sales in this new atmosphere.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've tried to do too is promote, if you can buy it in Mason County, then do that. If you cannot buy it in Mason County, one of the things that people may not have considered is if you do purchase it online, those tax dollars come to Mason County because they're paying the sales tax, and so that stays in our community versus, running over to Olympia or whatnot. So even if you use Costco.com versus going to Costco, those tax dollars would remain here in Mason County.
Both chambers are famous, of course, for their extracurricular activities, their joint chamber after hours, their own after hours and events in their own right. Had to be dialed back, of course, because of COVID virus. But it seems like things are starting to pick back up a little bit.
Yeah. And I think that we quickly pivoted towards connecting virtually. I think all of us very quickly became Zoom experts.
Very quickly.
And so, just being able to create some mechanisms for people to still connect and be able to share experiences, share ideas and different methods that they're using to combat COVID.
Mm-hmm. Next month, and as we move to the fall, we're seeing municipalities looking at their budgets, and you've got some things coming up regarding that as well.
So one of the things, especially when talking about essential businesses and such, is that the leadership really plays a strong hand in making sure that our business community can survive. And so what we're looking at is through September is weekly forums, state of the community. So we'll have the city and the county in 1 week to talk about what they've done, what they're doing, what we can anticipate for the upcoming year. Also talking with the tribes, some of the ports, and then the school districts also.
Yeah. So we just had the primary beginning of this month. The fall voting it'll be here before you know it. You've got some fall forums on the way. What's up with that?
Yes, we'll have joint forum in early October. We don't have the date exactly set. Probably will be virtual, and we'll have a couple of the candidates in each, 2 candidates in each voting section, and get them in and have a Zoom virtual and do a candidate forum for them. So we'll be doing that together. Mm-hmm. And I think probably the thing we want to drive home the most is be sure to register to vote and go out and vote. That's what makes the difference.
Right. Especially here locally. Since my tenure at the chamber, I've seen a couple of local elections where 10 votes for the other person would have created a far different outcome, a different leader, different perspective, different priorities. And so one of the many good things about living in a small community like ours is that your vote truly does matter here.
Yeah.
Have you thought about or started talking with chamber members about how they're going to prepare for the fall and winter with holiday shopping coming up?
Yeah, we've just begun looking at some of those methods and kind of best practices so that we can get some of our businesses there. We also serve on a couple of different grant funding opportunities. So we work with Enterprise for Equity for some small business microloans that are 100% forgiven. So that's up to $10,000. We've also I'm a board member of the United Way of Mason County, so they have a lot of community resources they've already pumped more than $60,000 into our community, and currently have another $60,000 that we're considering how to best get those resources into the right hands.
Yeah.
Chamber members get great perks as well as great information and resources. A lot of people, members now looking at their budgets, wondering if continued membership is worth it in the next year. There are a lot of things that you get out of being a member of the Chamber. You can join them both or whichever's closer. The North Mason Chamber is northmasonchamber.com. Shelton-Mason County Chamber of Commerce is masonchamber.com, so there's always good information there. But there is a lot of benefit to becoming a Chamber member. And, Heidi, the golf tournament's still coming up, right, later this month?
August 21st at Alderbrook Golf Course. So thankfully, we've been able to find some ways to continue safe social distancing. We'll have teams teeing off of hole 1 and hole 10 at the same time, so we can get out the field pretty quickly. Obviously, we won't be able to do in-person prizes and awards, but Alderbrook's been great to work with and kind of being really innovative in how we can make it a fun and yet very safe.
Executive Director for the North Mason Chamber, Pam Volz. Executive Director for the Shelton-Mason County Chamber of Commerce, Heidi McCutcheon. Thank you so much. Good to see you both, and thanks for being here.
You're listening to Daybreak on iFiber One News Radio.
And as Wednesday continues, a good morning to you. Morning, Spencer. How are you, bud?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How about you?
Good, good. Mariners on the air today. Let's see. It is a Wednesday against Texas. 5 o'clock pregame and 6:05 first pitch. After that, on Friday, they'll be in Houston for 3, and then L.A., the Dodgers on Monday. Hot down there in Texas and Houston and L.A., the Sun Belt. We're in the middle of summertime, and
a
lot of kids are unable to hit the community pools if your community is so blessed to have something like this. Also, river swimming, lake swimming. There's been a lot of restrictions on this because of COVID. That makes sense. You don't want people gathering close. I think the swimming portion of it is probably the safest part of the activity. It's the going in and out of the water and maybe passing by people or sitting on the beaches. I don't really know, but there is a new app out there. AirBNB, right?
Yes, I do.
Well, there's a new one. People are very smart. This app is called Swimply. 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 It's an Airbnb for pools, because they say the best pool is someone else's pool because you don't have to deal with it.
I agree with that.
There is an app. You had a pool, right, when you lived in California?
When we were in Northern California, that was the one thing that, because we moved from the house we were living in that Sarah owned in Sonoma County, where the average temperature is like 70, right, to a place where the summer temperatures are 115 or 100 plus easily. So she goes, we got to somehow figure out a pool, or the kids are just going to be miserable and I'll be miserable. And so we got a pool, and we got a good deal on the pool, but the maintenance, man, that's what kills you, honestly. Once the pool's done, just all the stuff you have to do with it, from the chemicals and the balance and the pH, and I don't miss that at all.
If you don't do the maintenance, obviously it'd be, mossy or algae and scummy, but you would be, once you're ready to restart the maintenance, do you have to drain the pool and then refill the pool, or are you able to chemically get everything back together and back in shape?
No, luckily, and we tried it ourselves, and then it was just convenient to have a pool person come out and check the chemicals every week, but we were having an issue with the pool company not doing what they were supposed to be doing, and they were off on the chemicals, and they had, the new guy come in, and everything went downhill. But you could do it chemically, but it goes both ways. They could fix it pretty quickly, but there were times where overnight it was very strange. We'd have those little skimmer bugs, those things in pools that kind of looks like they're darting across the pool swimming. We'd all of a sudden have 20 of those in the pool, and we didn't have them like the day before. We're like, where did these things come from? And then one time we came out, and those algae the whole pool was like green, and it had to do with not enough chlorine that they put in, plus the really hot days and the way the sun hits the water. And it was just so much to think about, so much cost. And we had a saltwater system as opposed to the chlorine. But that broke.
Well, I thought the salt water is supposed to be easier.
It was easier, and then the whole system broke down, and it was thousands of dollars to replace. So then at that point, we're like, this is just too much maintenance. So we switched to the chlorine before fixing the other system. So just so many moving parts, more than people think. So this is a great idea.
I have a feeling that the person who invented Swimply may have been just about the same camp as you guys on this. So here's the deal here. You go to the website and you can look up homeowners who are willing to let you swim in their pools by the hour. So you input the zip code. We've done that for you already this morning, and there is a secluded backyard pool in Gig Harbor that is available for $60 per hour.
I'm in it right now. Sorry, nobody can use it till the end of day.
Oh, you're doing the show from the pool in Gig Harbor.
They gave me a special for 3 hours.
Interesting. Oh, is this a paid plug? Is that what we're doing right now? I'm just kidding. It's not, folks. The other part of this website apparently is called Joy Space, a similar concept, but homeowners willing to loan out their basketball courts, home gyms, or tennis courts. Isn't that something?
Boy, it's innovative, all right. And I bet a lot of these, if it's a nice pool and you keep it well manicured and everything, maybe offer a cooler of snacks or something. I mean, you could really go all out with this. I mean, you can make some good money.
Here's one thing that just popped into my head. With all of the racial injustice and conversation and protest and people on edge and things like that right now, if you're going to do this and you're letting strangers come into your pool, I'm going to say maybe you let your neighbors know that there are going to be strangers accessing your backyard and your pool, so you don't get some gunslinger across the street wondering who these folks are that are now in your pool.
Thinking somebody broke in.
That may or may not. Yeah, exactly. Somebody has broken in and they're swimming in your pool. You know, I don't want anybody to be Wyatt Earp on this thing and trying to figure out what's going on. You know what I'm trying to say?
Oh, yeah. And then you wonder, like, noise restrictions where, like, we had... And that's what we like now where we are. We don't have neighbors we can easily hear or see. But you always had the neighbors, like the neighbors moved in next door to us, and they put in a pool too, and they were so noisy, loud music. It seemed like they were always having pool parties. So I wonder how that's affected, because some people just swim quietly and other people have to put on a big show, and the kids, depending on the age of the people in the pool, a lot of screaming, a lot of shouting. So you're right, that would, if you're right next door to your neighbors, draw some attention probably.
The other thing I'm seeing as we're kind of looking at this rental system, the last Blockbuster is available for rent in an Airbnb. Oh. I will tell you, just for full disclosure, after high school, I moved to Portland to teach drums, and I worked at a Moyer Video that turned into a Blockbuster.
Oh, cool!
And it was a great job, and I had a heck of a good time there. But it looks like there's only one Blockbuster left in the whole country, and it's in Bend, and you can go down there and stay in this thing apparently.
Yeah, it looks like they're listing up to 4 people can stay in a specially redesigned section of the store, featuring comfy living room complete with a pull-out couch, bean bags, and a ready-to-run VCR with a whole store full of movies. That's really cool. I've never been there. I've always wanted to make a pilgrimage there, and I'll regret it if, God forbid, it does close one day, not having gone to it, but... It's kind of cool, isn't it? It's very kind of sentimental and nostalgic that there's one. These used to dominate. I remember growing up in San Francisco, they were like Starbucks. They were everywhere.
Yeah. And people would, I remember when I was working there, we got the double VHS of Titanic. It was before DVDs, so it was VHS, and it was a 2-tape of Titanic because it was so long. And the amount of copies of that we got in, because they used to have a thing where it was like guaranteed, or you get a free rental or something like that.
Yeah, I remember
But
that.
just whole sections of the new release wall were for Titanic when that came out. That one was a huge one, and Armageddon was a big one.
That was cool. You bring back memories of like how they were spaced on the wall. That's right. And then what was it?
Yeah.
They would take how did you know when it was empty? Because they would take
So the box would be in front of the actual movie. So you take the movie behind the box, and you brought that up to the counter.
And how did they do like theft and stuff? Was there a lot of theft in your store? Do you remember? Like, would people try to take the tape or something?
No, all the movies had beeper stickers on them, and there was a beeper as you walk in and out. I'm very few times that ever happened. Yeah, that was a fun job.
Yeah, I bet
that was a good one. So you can go down to the Airbnb in Bend at the Blockbuster, stay there, watch some movies. Now I wonder what time checkout is, because is the store an actual store? So
it is.
Are you sleeping in there when people are renting movies?
It's like those skits from Impractical Jokers where they pretended they were sleeping in the IKEA beds. You know how you walk through the showroom,
and you walk out of the. Whoa! Oh man, that's funny. All right, more Daybreak Show coming up. Good morning to you.
Thank you so much for listening to today's Daybreak with Jeff Slakey podcast. Again, I'm so happy and honored you found us and chose to listen. Please subscribe, rate, review, and share this with your circle of influence. It's a collection of some of the interviews, news, and conversation during Daybreak with Jeff Slakey on I-Fiber-One News Radio KMAS, weekdays from 6 to 9. Thank you so much again, and talk with you next time.